Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your co-host and co-founder of the Creative Birth Strategy Podcast and house here on Clubhouse every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, providing education, networking, and strategy. So let's get some people invited in here this morning. We're going to have another great discussion. Really going to dive into um, rental, demand and growing, how to capitalize strategies and scale in your current real estate portfolio or starting off. We'll touch on the beginner as well. I mean, the newbie needs to know how to get in and get and scale. It's very important. So we're going to really pound this out today. I'm really excited about this discussion this morning, and what a week that we're having here right now. So I'm just punching people in, and then I'll invite some peeps up and get rocking and rolling here in just a few minutes. Just as fast as my thumbs will move. I will push this out and get this all going. But in the meanwhile, I'd love to thank our sponsors today. Of course, I'd like to thank um, Lenmar Capital, where I'm a senior loan analyst. I'd like to thank I'd like to thank also MB Capital Solutions, where I'm a referral partner for unsecured business lines of credit. I'd like to thank Real Estate Mastermind Strategies, where we're now in, I think, 4 states. We're going to go into five in networking, education, and support and strategy for real estate investors and professionals. I'd like to thank also Mr. Yurdal Perkins of Perkatech, who provides all our social media, architecture, podcasting, video work, all of it to provide the insight that we can do every week here on our podcast. We're now hitting anywhere between 3,500 and 4,500 views a week, which I'm quite excited about that. We're getting a lot of traffic. We're trying to make sure we keep the educational subject matter at a high level where people, appreciate it and leverage and utilize it for their own endeavors or their circle of influence or their team of experts or the moderators, working with the moderators and seeing what they're up to and how you can work with them and scale. So today's discussion kind of ties into a lot of what was going on with the Jackson Hole Symposium on Friday. Wow, really covered a lot of discussion there. It's all signaling a likely interest rate cut in September. The Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said Friday that raising risk to employment warranted a policy adjustment. So, with job reports somewhat questionable, inflation somewhat under control, but costs are still moving up, I think there's obviously a concern. Finally, I don't know how many times he had to get hit in the head by Trump administration to let him know that we need to bring these rates down. But the irony is the rates leveled off at about 6.5 for the conventional side and dropped a full 3/4 of a point on the commercial side. So the base rate for the commercial rate was around 6.375. As of Friday morning, before the symposium announcement, the rates dropped to 5.75 base. So your DSCR rate starts at 5.75 instead of 6.375. Extremely significant in the non-QM space. And some other interesting announcements where now the overall mortgage industry, 12% of that industry is now non-QM from 8% last year. So big moves up in there. Um, Another interesting article that I read through Shandon Economics, which caught my eye, was according to this last month's estimate, 83 or 84% of the units paid their full rent on time. 34 basis points increase from July. Why? Because they're not buying a house. They're going to stand still. They're going to stay renting. Just because the rates might come down a quarter point, which might not do anything to the market, always reacts the opposite of what the Fed does. But say we stay in the sixes. Think about this as a real estate professional. Logically, who is buying a property between September and December? And what does your fall market look like? It's primarily not a home buying market. It's kind of a soft, slow, And inventory is not suddenly going to change if the Fed drops the rate by a quarter point. That's just not going to happen. So I fully believe that this fourth quarter will be an unbelievable investor market in the DSCR fixed to rent, fixed to flip space. You're going to see more activity from an investor in this fourth quarter than probably the last two quarters combined. I'm already seeing an influx of inquiries just on Friday. I probably locked down 12 more DSCR loans and about another 12 BR strategies. That's a lot on a Friday in the summertime. So this summer has been a very interesting and volatile market. And to say the least, I think we're going to see way more activity coming up in the next bit going into September. But I mean, we still got another week left in August here, and it'll be very interesting to watch. And a couple other, articles that caught my eye this past week before we go into our subject. Let's see here. Some market trends. Americans are holding on to major purchases, citing job uncertainty. I'd probably be concerned there. Um, I'm also seeing new building inches up as a housing shortage persists. So you're seeing new construction, you're seeing build to rent, you're seeing activity. I really feel it's going to be strictly investor play. I was with where was I yesterday? Yeah, I was there yesterday. I was having brunch and with a couple colleagues of mine. I said, "Hey, how's the Philly market looking?" And he's like, "I don't know how these realtors are surviving unless they're doing a lot of rentals. Nobody's buying in some of these urban settings." And I'm like, man, they all must have a full-time job in what they're doing because how they're going to support themselves. I mean, it's they're going to be that quiet this fall for home buying. I really feel like if you're not investor centric, you're kind of like already behind the eight ball. So if you're not thinking about pivoting, I would pivot very soon. So getting into our discussion here this morning, rental demand is growing and how to capitalize strategies and scaling your real estate investment portfolio. The market is shifting, and why is the renter demand rising? Because affordability gap, lifestyle trends, demographics, economic headwinds. Where are the opportunities in today's rental market? Single family rentals, midterm rentals, multifamily and build to rent, affordable workforce housing. How are you capitalizing in smart financing? DSCR loans, portfolio blanket loans, bridge loans, fixed to rent strategy, and a big movement in the foreign national and private capital space. Scaling your portfolio strategically, market selection, leveraging property management. When's the last time you sat down and had lunch with a property manager or several? That's where your off-market deals are. You're leaving a lot of money on the sidelines when you're not talking to at least one to two property managers a month and kind of finding out who the tired landlord is and who's trying to get rid of their properties. The property manager can't buy all the properties, but they want to retain the accounts. Building your power team, and then obviously tying it into tax and wealth strategies. We're having a bunch of courses coming up on 1031 exchange, cost segregation, depreciation benefits, the white label lending and partnerships. I just announced November 15th, we are having the ultimate workshop for asset-based lending. It'll be a 9 to 5 workshop all day. We're starting it in Philadelphia, then we're going to North Jersey, and then we're going into New York, and then we're going to go to other states. It's a full day of education covering all aspects to asset-based lending, white label marketing, rental loans, fixed to flip loans, portfolio rental loans, multifamily bridge, new construction, fixed to rent, blanket loan programs, mixed use properties, short and midterm rentals, foreign national loans. Who should be attending that type of discussion? Mortgage brokers, private lenders, real estate investors, and agents ready to scale. It completely ties into our discussion this morning. Now, you got to also take into consideration risk management in growing a renter economy, tenant diversification, liquidity buffers, meaning, why do you think I offer unsecured business lines of credit through MB Capital? Because I want people to stay liquid. You also have to be aware of regulatory awareness. So what lenders are allowing no seasoning or have a seasoning product on a refinance? What's that burst strategy leverage look like? Does 100% financing really look like 100% financing? And what are your exit strategies to your property? You get into a property, what's the hold plan? Who's going to maintain that property? And some action steps for investors. Analyzing your current portfolio's cash flow versus appreciation potential. Adding at least one scalable strategy, whether it's MTR, STR, expansion, SFR expansion, multifamily, leveraging DSCR and portfolio loans to grow without income caps, networking with investors, lenders, and property managers for deal flow, creating a 12 to 24 month scaling blueprint tied to market trends. Renter demand isn't a short term trend, it's a structural shift. The investors who systemize acquisitions and financing and management today will be positioned to dominate the market over the next decade. Amy, good morning. Thank you for your patience. Brief overview, who you are, what you do. Thoughts to our discussion this morning. Renter demand is growing. How to capitalize, strategies.
Good morning, Joe. My name is Amy Palvido. I wear a couple of hats, but I am the chairwoman of the U.S. PropTech Council, which is the trade association for the real estate technology industry in the United States. I am also a longtime real estate investor. I'm actively real estate investing today. I've been real estate investing since 2008, and I have been in real estate and construction since 2003. So long time. And I would say that, obviously the renter demand is growing because of the economic issues. If you're going to capitalize now, if you're new to the game and you want to get into being a landlord and you want to start, most people start small. They start with single family homes. But if you have a good enough credit score and enough, enough equity behind you, and I would say it's like if you've got, I don't know, 200K in the bank, or have friends who have 200K in the bank, I would suggest that you look for a small multifamily deal, like a or 5 unit or 6 unit, and get your teeth wet there because that puts you into a commercial loan category, and dependent upon your income and your debt to income, those loans might be a little bit easier to get. And Joe could point you in the right direction, but you'll scale a little bit further faster. And if you don't have the amount of equity and you don't have a good credit score, no problem. Just start smaller, but work to that. I think everybody should scale towards commercial because that's partly because that's the path I was on, and I was able to grow wealth faster. So if you can and have the ability to start with a 5 unit, I would do that. And capture this swell of renter demand. And Joe, I think we're in this for a little while. I don't think home buying becomes a thing again until 27, but my crystal ball broke a long time ago. I just think there's enough uncertainty in the market, and that just makes people leery, and prices really haven't adjusted to where the mortgage rates are, I don't think. And so there's going to be a little of wariness out in the market, but maybe I'm wrong. You're in it every day, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing. Prices still keep coming down in Austin, but they exploded to something completely stupid and unreasonable. So, I don't know where it ends up going, but if you're going to get into this game, I understand there's a lot of education. You just can't walk in and be a landlord, knowing nothing one day and a landlord the next. There's a lot of education you need to get, and so you're not violating a lot of laws. And if you don't want to violate laws, go get a professional property manager or a landlord who knows what they're doing, so you're not doing that. But that would be a couple of steps for the newbies. And then I would just say for the experienced people who this now's the time to buy, man. It's hunting season, and you need to be out there actively looking for properties. There are AI tools out there that can help you find properties if you're not using them today, and I can point you in the direction of a lot of them, but it's a good time to be in the market for sure.
Yeah, I do not see a home buying frenzy, at least for the next 12 I mean, somewhere in late 26 summer. If the golden year is really upon us next year, it's very hard to see. I mean, I look at inventory right now; it's so stale.
Mhm.
It is so stale everywhere. Where are people finding off market? They're leveraging AI. They're leveraging AI all day. That's all they're doing. They're using AI bots to call people, look for off market opportunities, communicating with people to do mass amount of marketing. I mean, I got one guy that he puts out 5,000 texts a day to see if any real estate agents have anything, remotely off market or remotely there's a discount, right? I have one guy that all he does is focus on listings that are 5 months into the listing that are on the market. Why? That realtor only has 1 month left typically to sell that property or they lose the contract, right?
Right.
So it's almost like a sand of time turned over, and it's almost like an assignment agreement at that point. So if you're going to get any form of discount, it's going to be in that or any kind of good communication by that listing agent. They haven't had no bites, or there's something going on with the property, or there's something going on with the sellers, or whatever the case may be. Is there might be a window of opportunity. I'm seeing a lot of people identifying other clients that fall out of other deals. I sat down and had lunch with a couple clients on Friday, and they knew about this client that just kept screwing around with some lenders that were over promising and under delivering. He did not close. This young man jumped in. He's buying a 9 unit. Okay. And I'm going to aggressively leverage that property and get him into the deal with maybe 10% down on a purchase and 100% on construction financing. And then I'm going to take him out. Okay. And he took advantage of somebody else's stupidity. And I am seeing a lot of some stupidity in investors that are trying to scale too quick.
Right.
So that's a concern I have. Right now, I have a past client that I know. He is now in foreclosure in 6 properties. He is done for the next 4 years. He can't buy bubble gum because you know why? He has no exit strategy, right? When you have a foreclosure, you're done. It's over. Okay? Go work at Walmart, knock yourself out because you're not buying anything for 4 years. So a lot of people don't look short term and long term at the same time. They don't know how to grow. They don't know how to communicate, and they need to learn how to get better communication skills. They got to pull the band-aid off immediately on any type of circumstances. What's your thoughts on why I feel like property managers are the key source for off-market rentals? I feel like they have the insider access, problem properties, market intel, trust and relationships. They try to build relationships first in their space. They offer referral fees. They position themselves as a solution. So, what's your thoughts on that, and how is that tying into what you're doing in prop tech right now?
So yeah, so they will be right, but the property managers are typically going to be on. Well, that's not necessarily true, but typically they're going to be on larger properties unless they're managing a portfolio of homes or managing homes for a lot of different people, like they're professional realtors slash property managers, and they're managing a bunch of assets. But yeah, they're talking to those owners every day. They're your source of truth on exactly what's happening on any of those properties. They're great at taking the lunch and understanding, you have to find who those folks are. I know there's associations for residential property management. I think it's NARPM or something. But if you're depending on the size of asset you're trying to chase, there's a property management association for you, and you probably should join even if you're not a property manager, because you want to be talking to those people. You can say you're a property manager, that you're going to property manage your own properties, but at the end of the day, you want to be in the room with them, because yes, they're in the know. They know exactly which owner is struggling, because when they call to go make, hey, you got an update an HVAC unit, and then owner's going, can you make it last a little longer? They know those owners are in trouble, right? So yeah, the property managers are a great source. And I would say if you can probably you probably can figure out by loan maturities. I mean, there's a lot of data sources out there that can kind of tell you, especially on the small multifamily deals. Those are commercial loans, right? So typically they're going to have IO periods for a couple of years, and then they're going to mature if they were bridged money, or if they're bought with a debt fund, they're going to mature. A lot of that information is public, right? So you can use PropStream or data source of your choice to figure out where those are. Those might be opportunities too to pick up something that's coming against his loan maturity. Because if you're just a betting person, you're going to know that whatever the value of their property is probably what the loan value is right now. Because especially if they bought it, if it's coming due now, they bought it in 2020, 2021 at the height of the market, right? And all those values have come down. So now they're in a pickle, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with themselves. There's going to be a lot of those. So same scenario with the listing on the 5 months. There's a lot of people coming up against the bell is tolling, and they're coming up against a loan maturity date that if they refi, they're going to have to buy into their refi, right? So a lot of those people are going to want to sell. I would have ventured to guess, right? And take a haircut or figure something out, because they don't want to go do a capital call or put more money into the property, I don't think. So that might be an opportunity too.
Yeah, I am seeing the small balance multifamily growing immensely with the investor that's trying to scale. That 5 through 12 multifamily, as long as they stay away from the mixed use piece component or can convert the mixed use to residential, that's going to stay very under the radar. And there's so much money for it right now with asset based lenders like myself. I mean, I'd love to go find some 5 through 8 and take those deals down on the DSCR side. Bridge, it all depends on your experience. Like that's the thing. Like a lot of people want to get into it. With multifamily, 5 plus units, you got to have at least, I think it's like 3 or 4 deals done, verified, and they will verify the work done and completed with ownership. So if you have to JV with somebody the first deal or two just to get to that experience level, you got to really know how much experience. Like when I ask somebody about how many rehabs completed in the last 4 years, it's not a kind of number. You need to know that number. It's not units. It's based on properties, and you can't use owner occupied. Okay, and then then the question is, how many flips have you completed in the last 4 years? Not kind of flipped. What have you flipped? It's a very straight question, a straight answer.
And there's a lot of people that haven't been flipping much lately.
Well, that's okay.
It didn't make sense, right?
That's okay. So, so how many burrs have you done, and how many rentals have you acquired in the last 4 years?
Right.
And if it's zero, you're going to have a problem in the multifamily space. And anything under 3 completed, non-verified, that you can't verify, you're going to have a problem. You might have to go in and partner with somebody, or it's going to have to be a creative way. But then once you have that tombstone, now you're in the driver's seat from an investor landlord, and property managers start talking to you.
Yeah, I would say that. So if anybody's chasing that smaller multifamily game, please, 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 please save yourself some heartache. Have a tech stack as a part of your CapEx. You're going to need to technology those things out, because the property cannot afford to have a property manager on site. Like, it just can't. It's too small. It's not gonna pencil. So you're gonna have maintenance people coming and going. You're gonna have, you yourself is probably gonna be handling tenant. If you're leasing it out, maybe you're using a realtor to lease out some of the space, but no offense to all the realtors in the room, that gets really expensive. So you can't do a realtor to lease out every unit. So you'll be doing it yourself, which is totally fine. But there's so much technology now that where you can automate a lot of those processes where you're not wasting your time. And it's a perfect way to learn all the technology that's available. So if you're doing 5 to 12, just make sure you're budgeting, I would say, $400 to $500 a unit for tech. And that should get you pretty far along the way. And yes, that might sound like a lot of money, but if it's a part of your loan, like, it's a little, easier to swallow. Right. So especially when you're doing the upfront stuff. So, and oh, by the way, segue, we'll be talking about that in the next room, Joe. We'll be talking about smart home technology. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Amy. Appreciate your time this morning. And I look forward to having that here every Sunday follow up. So that's great. There's some markets that I feel that have a lower barrier of entry that are going to be very strong for the first time or active investor that's okay being an out-of-state landlord. 2025 going into 26. I'm going to give some of my predictions and thoughts. And this is based on affordability and some analysis I've done on lower home prices, maybe some creative entry strategies, maybe even fractional investing. Why these stand out? Because the median home prices, the average rents, the yields, the population growth, the remote worker programs, the affordable neighborhoods, making it especially appealing for newcomers. So number one in my space right now is Tulsa, Oklahoma. Two and three are in Indiana. One is in Newcastle, right outside of Indianapolis, which I like Indianapolis. It's kind of a boring, slow city, but it's moving. Muncie, Indiana, Chattanooga, Tennessee, which I'll be at in September. Dayton, Ohio, Buffalo, New York. Buffalo is a sleeper town. I mean, I haven't been there in a bunch of years, but I do plan on being there and in Albany coming up. Fort Wayne, Indiana, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm out there once a month. Great market. Absolutely great market. San Antonio, Texas, McKinney, Texas, Cary, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Muskie, Oklahoma, Hutchinson, Kansas City, Burlington, Iowa, Tulsa. I mean, again, Boise, Idaho, Worcester, Massachusetts, Grand Rapids, Michigan. I like Louisville, Kentucky a lot. I like Elizabethtown and Bowling Green. I like Oklahoma City a lot. And I like certain areas in Louisiana right now. They're creeping up on me. Hammond, Slidell, and Lafayette. So these are some thoughts. And I could post it. If anybody needs this, I could send this out to anybody. Some markets. You could always privately email me. Do not DM me on here because I will not see it for I don't know how long. So keep that in consideration. Good morning, Travis. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and why is there not enough meat on the tacos on your pictures right now? That's the concern I have this morning. Too many onions and not enough meat, I'm seeing. Well, the one to the right is okay. That one to the left, I think you're a little light.
Yeah. Hey, it's not Worcester, man. Come on. It's Worcester.
Yeah. I'm a North Jersey guy, so I barely speak English, so I come up with my own language as I go.
You don't speak New England, that's for sure.
Not at all. I wouldn't last a week up there.
Yeah. Hold on a second. The neighbors' dogs are hearing me now. They're barking.
So I gave you a lot of information to kind of take in different directions because of your property management. What's your thoughts on what we were discussing, Amy and I?
Okay, so yeah, I've got thoughts on different things. Anyway, the first thought on your renter demand is growing. Well, I can tell you that, as we know, real estate's very local and it depends on where you are. And I can say that right now in my neighborhoods, the demand is not growing. And, it normally slows down this time of year, but it's been more slow than normal. And it's on both sides, both sales and the leasing. So it really depends on where you are, what the demand is like. If you look at all the heat maps, you see that the Northeast is still killing it as far as home sales go. Things are moving quickly. I was up in New Hampshire for the month of July, and where I grew up is like the hottest real estate market in the country right now. And, I'm sure they're not having problems selling houses, but there is, at least where I am in the Houston area, the demand for rental properties or rentals has always been high. Houston historically was always 50% or more of the population rent. So it was always a good place for landlords to buy and hold properties, be it single family or multifamily. The thing that is really hampering selling the single families that are rentals already is the fact that the numbers really don't work, right? Our property taxes have always been higher than most of the country, but now our insurance rates are so high that when you start looking at putting 20 to 30% down, with the current rental rates, we'll say the average rental rate is $2,000 to $2,100 a month, and you're paying $300,000 for a house, it just doesn't cash flow. So unless you're buying them cash or putting a substantial amount of money down,
Somebody that wants to do something like a DSCR, it's not going to work. Now, I'll give you an example. I just sold one of the ones I had been managing for a while. It's in the town center of the Woodlands. It sold for $740,000. And the people bought it and they're happy about it. They're renting it out and they're only getting $4,000 a month in rent. It's like, okay, whatever. I guess you're betting on appreciation and obviously not worried about what it's going to pull in for rental income because those numbers don't work for me. So that's my thoughts on as far as the rental demand. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the Section 8 stuff. Given that the Trump administration wants to limit how long people can get Section 8 money, which I'm sure there's a lot of landlords out there that aren't happy about the way that might go. But people like me who think that there's way too many people that are living off the Section 8 system for years, 20 plus years, their whole lives almost. I agree with the fact that it needs to be a temporary solution. So there's a few of my thoughts, besides the fact that you need to know how to pronounce Worcester.
And what's going on with these tacos, man? I'm a little saddened with the one to the left. The right one it's balanced with good meat and cheese. But the left one, we got
it's you got to use whatever you got, right?
No, I get it. I get it. But Travis, and a side note, Section 8 was set up for a temporary environment. It was never set up for the long term. And I feel like there's a lot of fraud that they got to clean up first, and then reset the clock on it. That's what I think. What they're trying to do. They're going to contract it a little bit, and then expand it back out hopefully in the right way. I mean, they're never going to get complete control of the fraud. I mean, people just are devious in that space. But for the landlord, that's not going to be the holy grail of renting anymore. And the B class neighborhood is going to be the neighborhoods of people that can't buy a house right now or for the next immediate future, but they're going to treat whatever rental they have like their home, and they're going to stay longer, and they're going to hopefully treat the property and maybe the likelihood of those individuals might buy the property from the landlord in time, whether on an option or when the landlord calls it a day for the most part. But I mean, Houston might be a very unique market where, like, I'm seeing numbers in the Midwest, like Louisville, Kentucky. I'm seeing Chattanooga, Knoxville, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, even St. Louis, which is surprising, more in the community, the outside community. Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. These are markets that are doing very well in the rental space. Now, again, they all come with their problems. Albany, New York is doing quite well, considering that it's in New York, but it kind of falls more in a magistratal law environment. So I feel like where the landlord tenant laws are a little more balanced. I mean, are they balanced in Houston? I mean, or is it favorable? No, that's the problem. That's another problem.
Well, it's not a problem if you're a landlord, right?
And
I think it's fair too because in Texas, the landlord-tenant laws definitely favor the landlord. But if you're paying your rent on time, you're not violating the lease, then you shouldn't have any issues. There's certain things that the landlord has to fix that they have to do within, they say, is 7 days. Somebody has to start working on it. Anything that affects the health and safety of a normal individual, not somebody who's hyper allergic to stuff or whatever. You got to work on it within 7 days. So, I mean, I think that the laws in Texas are fair as long as people know what's going on. But then again, that's like like Amy had said, if you're going to be a landlord, you should know the law, and it's pretty easy to find out. You just go read it. But I don't know what the other parts of the country are like. Right now I'm over in Mobile, and the real estate market here was chugging along pretty well, and it seemed to have slowed down here too. And This is a little different area over here where property taxes are very low.
Yeah.
And insurance is, pretty reasonable. It's not killing people like in Texas right now. So, but the city itself has always been a little slow, right? It's kind of like some of these other cities you mentioned, more of your working class cities where it seems like that's the trend, right? So when all the big markets start to slow down, people start looking in these tertiary markets, right? Like these smaller cities that are worker class cities, and all the money starts flowing to those cities. And that's where we are right now, I think, again. And at some point it'll shift back, as it always does, right? It's all a cycle. It'll go back to the bigger cities like Miami and Tampa and everything. But right now, yeah, the money's moving towards the smaller cities. And yeah, you can sell properties with tenants in them in areas where the numbers make sense. And it's really simple. I did it here last year. I remodeled the house. I put a tenant in it, stuck it on the market for 90 grand. I mean, it's not a ton of money, but the numbers made sense and I still made a profit, and I sold it within like 2 weeks. It was really quick. So yeah, the investors are out there, and this time of year is an investor market.
Oh, absolutely.
This is when I would buy.
110%. This is going to be, it's going to be a vulture quarter. I mean, they are going to be out with their claws. I mean, I'm surprised about where you are in Alabama because the barrier of entry is so good there. But it doesn't come up on any of my numbers, by the way. Birmingham or Mobile, like nothing at all, which is surprising.
Hey, Joe.
Yes.
What do you think about, or you and Travis, I wanted to jump in. What do you think about this whole reindustrialization of America? And maybe the play is to follow where the new industrial sites are being built. Like, should that be like back in the day? It was like, and this was like 10 or 15 years ago. You would look where the new banks were being built, because you were just borrowing the knowledge of those real estate teams because they knew where the population growth was, and you just followed the banks basically. But now banks don't establish chains anymore. So what do you think about it's follow where the industrial sites are being built? Do you think that's a play, or?
Well, you got to follow the high tech manufacturing and advanced industries.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to look at where is near shoring and supply chain resilience, right?
Right.
And then your space, next gen and AI powered factories. I mean, Travis, how AI powered how advanced is Mobile right now compared to Houston, or vice versa?
Oh, it's not very advanced over here. There's very few tech type companies. It's mostly manufacturing, and I don't even know what the other thing is. There's shipbuilding. There's a small port here. So that was the whole reason why we came here. Gosh, it was 20 years ago, because Airbus was going to build their manufacturing facility over here at Brookley Field. They were going to build jets for the Air Force, and that was going to bring a big influx of jobs, mostly blue collar jobs, to the area. Airbus does assemble their jets over here now, but it was nothing like they were planning on doing. But like what Amy's saying, I think that's really smart to follow that stuff around, and you got to know who your tenant is, right? So if it's manufacturing jobs, it's a blue collar job. Okay, so you're looking at starter homes or apartments or something, not the move up buyer, the move up tenant.
Yeah, I'm looking at some numbers based on what Amy just said and Travis. I mean, there's got to be markers to incentivize people to come into these markets. Like, I can give you a great example. Like Philadelphia has nothing to draw people back to the Navy Yard for retail for office retail. They're all bailing out, and I don't see residential renaissance happening down there because they have all the wrong people doing it. They don't have a grocer down there. Restaurants are floundering, and then you don't even have a co-working space down there. So, like, what do you need a marker to draw people? And if there's no marker to draw people back in to a market, then it's going to get stale. It's going to be a rental market, and that type of rental is going to be questionable. It might go more toward affordable housing, and your market rent might be becoming your affordable housing. I mean, is that what might be happening in Mobile? It's just stale.
Well, no, actually, Mobile is getting better. So it's the opposite, and a lot of it is having to do with they're doing the opposite of what you just said is happening in Philly. They're really revitalizing the downtown. They put in is one of those co-working spaces like you just mentioned, and so there's a lot of investment happening in the downtown area, and that's what's helping the city transform. So they're getting a little bit better class of people, I guess you would say, that are moving to the area now because they're attracting better workers because there are some better jobs. But historically, it's been either military or manufacturing, but it's starting to shift a little bit.
Yeah. Good stuff. I appreciate Travis. Keep working on those tacos as we progress in our carnivore ways.
No problem, brother.
Felix, long time no talk to. Good morning. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to renter demand is growing, how to capitalize on strategies, and how does this tie back to your thoughts to Baltimore and the greater Baltimore market right now?
Felix Buchanan Senior, Grand Rising, everybody. Buchanan Biz Enterprises, the J-Lick Group. I'm a team leader of the Keller Williams Legacy team. Rentals has been something that I always dealt with. I started out even as a realtor dealing with voucher holders, dealing with rental clients. I agree with everything that I do property management where we are going to be the ones that have that inside information to the owners. We will be able to identify whether that owner's in trouble with that property and or, as Travis was just saying, selling the properties in certain areas with the tenants in it. As long as you can provide the T12, your rents are up to date, things of that nature, then there's no reason that another investor would not come in and take that property with the tenants in it, especially if it's income producing. Either having voucher holders in it, you can rent out traveling nurses. There's just a multitude of things when it came to rentals. To be honest, when I first started my real estate career, I sold more rentals than I did regular properties because when I joined Keller Williams, then it was I already owned my own property management company. So I didn't have to share that income with Keller Williams. So every tenant that I put in, if it was me dealing with the landlord that I'm just tenant placement, I get 100% of the rent as far as return from fee paid. But if I manage the property, then I get 50% of the rent and then 10% a month. And of course, if they have multiple properties, then I charge less to rent the property. But a couple of the renters I turned into helping them, the voucher holders helping them buy properties. The voucher holders are bringing back the programs where they used to, BRHP, Section 8, they used to help the tenants by giving them down payment assistance, where they're going to bring that program back to putting them in a position to helping them buy homes. I think rentals are great, especially if you manage your property correctly, whether it's a single family or multi-unit properties. It just really depends on what direction you're looking to go and what return on investment that you're looking to get. There's just a variety of ways in which you can go. I know that there's a lot of people that complain about voucher holders, Section 8 and things of that nature. Knock on wood, and thank God I had one bad Section 8 tenant and she never even made it into the property. I do believe through screening, I don't just use the system and say that the system says, oh, well, they have bad credit. I had a dude that had a 435 credit score. He had 13 charges, and he's one of my top 3 tenants. When he left, he even had a dog for 6 months. We only had to wipe down the counter. So I don't judge people based off of whether you have the voucher or your credit scores or this. It just comes that when I talk to you throughout my screening process, I know whether or not you're a good tenant. When I meet with you, your application, the way that your car looked, the way that you dress, how you talk, it all falls into it, because I've had some tenants where people would think, oh, she's popping off, she's slick in the mouth, but when it comes to her handling her business with her rent and making sure that your property is in order, it's It's been excellent. So I do believe, I've always believed in rentals. I do believe it's coming back, as it was stated earlier, mainly because people can't afford to buy houses, one, and or especially here in Baltimore, what you'll learn is that a lot of them are going to tell you that they don't want to buy a house. They feel more convenient with someone coming to fix the stuff when things break. They don't want to have to deal with the responsibility. A lot of people here deal with the responsibility of having to fix things. So that's my knowledge and wisdom for today.
Hey, Felix, did you make it down to that picnic, that potluck?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there. It's the 29th. It's next week.
Oh, it's next week?
Yeah, I thought it because I thought she changed it from the 22nd to the 29th.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you sent me the information saying that.
Oh, she did? Okay, let's see what happens. I'm losing my mind. All right. That's all good. I've lost my mind many times, so it's all good.
We always doing this business.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So, Felix, Amy, and Travis came up with something. I'm going to give some something for Stephen to chew on. Pivoting as a real estate agent in quarter 2025 means adapting to the end of the year market cycle and the current macro trends, rates, inventory, affordability, and preparing strategically for 2026. And I'm going to give kind of a breakdown of thoughts of how maybe a real estate agent should look at adjusting a little bit, just refocusing a little bit, right? Reframing the marketing and messaging, leveraging that year-end mindset, highlighting also tax benefits. For the investor, they might have to buy something to get additional write-off, right? And using and leveraging data-driven insights. Doubling down on investors and landlords, teaming up with maybe some more property managers, right? Investor friendly pitch, landlord tools, off market outreach, positioning yourself as a connector for the distressed or motivated seller who wants liquidity before year end, right? Leveraging maybe midterm and short term rentals that the market justifies, getting a better understanding of debt service coverage ratio and debt service financing. Like, do you really understand debt service financing? And if you don't, we should have that class in your market that's linked above. Sharpening your lead generation, holiday networking, expired listings, relocation and job market, talking to HR departments, partnering with relocation companies, adjusting to the seasonal buyer psychology, motivated buyers, creative financing, highlighting value plays, pushing affordability angles, smaller markets, condo townhomes, fixer-uppers, or rent-to-own strategies. Preparing for the quarter one 2026 momentum. Pipeline building. What's your playbook look like? And database nurturing. Like, I'm looking at a whole new level of database mining in quarter four in very specific markets, especially the markets where I'm hosting events. Connecticut, Delaware, PA, Lehigh Valley, Philadelphia, South and North Jersey, soon to be New York State. So I'm looking at different markets that make sense to me to go after the investor that's bought a property in the last 6 months in the LLC, whether with cash or with another lender. A successful quarter four 2025 pivot means balancing immediate opportunity, year end for buyers and sellers, investors, tax driven moves with strategic preparation, laying the groundwork for quarter 2026. Any agent who positions themselves as investor savvy, data driven, and solution oriented will carry the momentum into the new year. Stephen, good morning. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to renter demand is growing, how to capitalize strategies.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is Steve with REI Homepage. I'm a broker. I'm a buyer. My crew, I've got only one residential agent, so we're already very heavily in the multifamily, space, working on a couple tech projects. And I mean, I think, first of all, one of the things I'm doing for the first time ever, I think, is I'm doing cost segregation on my properties. Stuff up here is small. It takes a lot of properties to get enough to make it worth cost segging. But if you're sure you're hanging in till death do us part with these properties, accelerating that depreciation might be a nice way to make something work. I do want to address real quick on the Section 8 question. we've had about 15% of our people over the years be Section 8. And is there fraud? Yes, but I think it's being done backwards. Meaning, I think that what needed to be done was more investigators to look into specific fraud cases, rather than just picking a number and kicking people off. Because we have a couple of very long-term Section 8 holders, and they need it. There's no way around it. And if we just pick a number and kick them off, well, then with a declining economy and tougher jobs, and these people aren't physically able, where do they go? So I think that the thought process, and I'm glad to hear what Felix is saying, that some markets are actually doing what Pennsylvania never did, other states did, is say, hey, you're on Section 8 for a long time, we'll help you buy a house. It's cheaper for us to buy you into a house. So the program needs to be rethought. I just think it needs to be rethought with a scalpel, not chainsaw. But what I find that what I'm doing heading into this market, and I'm looking to make some pretty serious investments as the market changes, is you have to go back to the numbers. You have to not look and say, well, Airbnb has been this for the last 5 years. Yep, so have rents, so have sales. The last 5 years have been an anomaly. What was it before COVID? What is the actual, not worst case scenario, but what are the actual facts on the numbers? And I think you definitely, for me anyway, if you're in a Metro Philly ownership situation and you're saying, hey, people are coming here anyway, people will always spend big on Philly, New York. Yeah, that's great for that sector of investor. But for those of us at a level where, the cash flow spread has to be better and the buy-in has to be a little lower, all those markets you mentioned, Joe, Pittsburgh is one of the ones I'm looking at, Johnstown. Northeast PA, yes, but compared to when I bought in, it's got kind of stupid expensive. It's funny to hear Worcester come up because that was my back home. But really, my strong warning is, being a resident, I will never be a residential landlord in Massachusetts. I saw my mother go through hell with it in the 70s. No way. There's too much tenant-centered stuff. But I think the other thing, as we refocus on how the market's changing and heading toward the rentals, is with the need for more affordable housing. Where are these Section 8 people going to go? Where are these people who are in that, I call it upper blue collar, lower white collar range? Building in Northeast PA is actually cheaper or equal to buying and renovating. So maybe that's your play. Maybe your play is getting a piece of land and putting, a bunch of, maybe not tiny homes, but something on it. Looking for that play that's going to work now and in the future. My last piece on that is your tech and your management and your team. And not all property managers are created equal. Don't just look at their licenses. I'm speaking this as a broker who runs a property management company. It's not about licenses and alphabet soup after the person's name. It's how do they handle this? Talk to some of their other landlords. Find out how they run it. Because we get clients every day on the management side because another wonderful, respected, licensed, all shiny stuff property manager didn't deliver in making these properties rentable and keeping them rented to good people. They don't screen them, like Felix said. Oh, they're on Section 8. They must be fine. No, put them through the same process. When you're picking a property manager, you're not picking a marriage, but you're certainly picking a live-in partner. You're picking someone who's going to be in charge of your thing for a reasonably long time. How do they screen? How do they decide? How do they handle tenants that run off the rails? Because retention is cheaper than turning over. So when you're looking at the future, you have to realize, and you have to look at that. And one of the things we almost killed our business with, and I'll end with this: when Kelly was pregnant with Savannah, we gave all of our units to actually ended up being two property managers, and they both almost killed us. We were 98% owners, 98% rented, yada yada, because two things they would do: they would churn tenants. I get my 1 month fee, and if the person fails out next month, I get my 1 month fee again. So they didn't care who they put in. We offer certain months guarantees of whatever to show, listen, we do care. We're not going to charge our fee multiple times. And the second thing is maintenance, especially when they do substantial maintenance. They could turn the numbers up on the maintenance repair numbers. That may not hurt you, But if they try to throw bigger things in, make sure you consider having an independent, hey, you need a new roof. Maybe somebody else wants to look at that roof before we let the property manager's roofing company do the work. Because it is possible for a less than ethical property manager to really hurt the owner. And that's what I got. It is the time to buy. It's the time to look at things like cost seg. It is also the time to look at things like where you buy federal opportunity zone. There's a lot of benefits to buying in FOZs. When you examine locations, make FOZ one of your items that you think about. Also, never forget flood zone. I know that was more than I expected to say, but hope it helped, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. As always, a couple final thoughts to this overview between some great moderators this morning. I want to thank everybody. And if you haven't reached out to any of these moderators, you're just missing out from a growing team of experts. As I see Section 8 reset in 26, you're going to most likely see a lot of landlord decisions that are going to affect, on income limits and fair market rents and payment standards and policies, right? So you're really going to have to really take a look at, does it make sense for you, or does it make sense for you to kind of work the open market? In short, 26 is shaping up to bring modest increases in income thresholds and potentially higher rent ceilings in top markets, but also seriously policy uncertainty that could reshape how Section 8 functions for landlords and investors is going to happen. It's going to be, what is that risk model going to look like for you, right? And it is landlord friendly, like that eviction process and speed and rent control and rent increases and security deposits and fees and property rights and regulation. How important is this, right? It's very important. Cash flow for the investors, appreciation for the investors. For out-of-state investors, absolutely critical, because if you're not local, managing a tenant-friendly state becomes even harder. A landlord-friendly state will lower your operational risk and protect your cash flow, especially in downturns. Tenant-friendly states can still be profitable if demand and appreciation or rent growth outweighs the risk, but you'll need stronger property management and more reserves. You're going to need more dry powder. It's just going to be a common thing that happens here, because you got to watch where the jobs are moving to. If there's not a big job movement there, now you're falling more into affordable housing, because that might be your only tenant base, right? So as a landlord, you got to think all this through. As a real estate agent, you need to understand this if you're going to be that unicorn real estate agent for your clients, which is the investor, right? Fourth quarter, it's going to be all investors. I just don't foresee home buyers coming off the market just because of quarter rate difference in the rate. There's no inventory, and everything's inflated. Everything's inflamed in value. Nothing makes sense right now for the consumer, but the investor is seeing, cracks in the surface for themselves and taking advantage of desperation. And that's where I see a big opportunity for the investor professional in real estate, taking advantage of growing renter demand. I see build to rent more common than ever before, having discussions. I don't see the individuals selling these properties that are new construction. They're holding their new construction. The values are coming in, and they're finding good tenants to justify the reason why to hold them. And the towns are allowing them to do certain things to make it friendly for them to potentially sell down the road, but hold them as a rental for the time being. I'd be cautious about mixed use. If you're not an active real estate investor, that storefront or that commercial piece to a residential property, it's definitely different in pricing and rates and leverage and consideration. From a rehab perspective, the three most important questions as a real estate investor when you're putting together a BRRRR strategy based on leverage and pricing, you're looking at right now, the three most important questions: how many flips have you completed in the last 4 years? How many rehabs for rental have you completed in the last 4 years? And how many rentals have you acquired in the last 4 years? That's going to tie into rate, leverage, and the exit strategy for you and what that looks like. Right now, DSCR rates dropped. The base rate coupon rates dropped to 5.75, which is extremely aggressive. And your bridge money has dropped to 8.99. Starts there. Okay, so look at the opportunities that speak for themselves. Thank you to our sponsors, Lenmark, where I'm a senior loan analyst, MB Capital, where I'm a referral partner for unsecured business lines of credit, Perkatech, Mr. Earl Perkins, who does all our back office administration for our social media, our podcast. We're now hovering past 130 episodes. We're getting about 3,000 to 4,000 views a week. I want to thank Real Estate Mastermind Strategies, where we have events in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, soon to be New York State. I just think there's a great opportunity of synergy here. Your moderators were fantastic today. You should be reaching out to them. I think there's a unique opportunity as a real estate professional right now to take advantage of understanding real estate investment. I mean, there's just not a better time in this space. Also, this ultimate white label asset-based lending workshop that we're rolling out, I'm very excited about it. It's a full day, 9 to 5. We're going to go cover it all. So the class I'm teaching right now only covers certain pieces. This class goes all day into the discussion. We will be taking this nationwide. It'll be primarily Saturday day workshops. If you're interested in collaborating on one in the immediate future, let me know. We're going to be putting this through a trademarking process as well. So I want to thank everybody this morning. Go to Amy's room after this to follow, which is another great Rewired in AI. But my quote this morning, there is nothing stronger than a broken man rebuilding himself. Shiha Lal. Everybody have a blessed Sunday morning. I'll see you next week, 9 a.m. and for another educational piece on the Creative Birth Strategies podcast. Thank you, and I will be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. Have a great day.